I wanna be very serious about any hardware review going forward.
Absolutely. And we are live. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the VR CruCast.
What?
It's 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. I said it was going live at 9. I'm actually...
You could have like give me like a 5, 4, 3.
I could have, man. I
man.
could have. But I thought, you know...
Clicking off this stream.
I literally had a really quick look at everyone and I thought they all look ready.
Ready. I was born ready.
Exactly.
Do this.
Says the guy who rolled in here 3 minutes before the show started.
That is
Is
correct.
it? Oh, you done him like that. How's it going, everyone in chat? Welcome to the second episode of VR CruCast. We are joined by, first off, Alex and Skeever from Between Realities. How you doing, guys?
What's
What's up, dudes?
How
are you?
Do you know what? Alex has got a really retro old VR famous podcast. It's gone now. You know, it's gone into myth and legend now, the VR Link. And Eric has no idea what I was talking about.
VR Link?
I don't know. Benjo, you probably don't know what the VR Link is either, do you?
No, I haven't got a Scooby-Doo, mate.
Wow.
I haven't got a clue.
I feel like I've been here too long. It's crazy. Next up, we've got Lethal Weevil, Wes, Virtual Strangers. How's it going, man?
Okay, I think I'm still trying to come to terms with the fact that we're actually live, but yeah, besides that, we're all good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm clicking the live button. And then we've got, sadly, it's Bradley. He's just getting a drink or something. Or he's shaking someone's hand because he's famous.
I'm shooing my wife. Go.
Oh, don't shoo her.
Is that what they call it now?
Bring her on with us.
Hi, I'm Brad. Oh, okay, thank you. I have a crap or a crypt, whatever you call it.
Oh,
I'm doing good. Thanks
what are
for
they called?
watching, everyone.
Rape.
Crate.
Crap
Creep.
sounds better.
Has he got
I'm
chocolate in
eating
it?
crap.
Has he got
It's,
chocolate?
chocolate hazelnut inside. Anyway, sorry.
Nice, man. Nice.
That's
Next up,
delicious.
we got Benjamin from Beardo Benjo. How you doing, dude?
I just ate a big ice cream. I'm really cold now and tired.
Oh.
That's how I'm doing. It was a nice ice cream. It was filled with like Twix bits. But it was a bit too late at night, and now it's made me all shivery. So yeah, sorry.
You have none of it in your beard, so it's good.
I was 15 minutes late coming to the call because I was cleaning it out my beard.
Oh, man. Cereal
And this-
now is
A full like
nightmare.
flannel wash.
Cereal is a nightmare of a beard.
Yogurt
This
is the
episode
worst.
is brought to you by diabetes.
That's it. Yeah. And last but not least, we've got Eric Masher from the Q2C community channel. How you doing, dude?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Doing good. Good day. It's Monday. Let's go.
Yeah, I just want to point out earlier this week, QTC, they did a charity stream for breast cancer, I believe, Eric. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, man. We did a 12 hours straight after the fall stream with some amazing people involved. And we for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation charity, we collected $2,107, man.
That is amazing. That is so good. Yeah.
Amazing.
Great job. Absolutely legendary.
Mhm.
Great job, everyone. Everyone who
Amazing.
showed up to donate, everyone who showed up to watch, who shared it on social media, everyone who showed up to play the games. And of course, Tam2, right? Tam2, of course, donating the prize for the largest bidder, which was an awesome after the fall care package. So thank you to everyone who participated in any way.
Oh,
It
that
was,
is so lovely.
Big success.
Yeah,
Those
community
after the
really showed
card
up.
care packages are incredible.
They really
With the
are.
juggernaut
Oh.
and the hoodie and the hat. Like it
Do you
is
remember
so
the little
awesome.
figure? Do you remember the little figure?
Yeah.
The bobblehead,
It's
yeah.
like my prized possession.
You guys shut up. Shut up.
This
Shut up. You're
Yeah,
making
yeah,
me
it's so
jealous.
sick.
Oh, Benjo's got his out too.
So sick.
Am I the only one that didn't get one of these things? Man, I
Oh,
feel
what?
worthless.
Quite
Oh,
possibly.
Wes.
We could Now I gotta Man. get last one.
See if we can fix that.
We had
I
a
know.
goal of like $1,000. I set the goal at like $1,000, and we had $400 donated before the podcast even started.
Wow.
That's
That's
amazing.
awesome. That's awesome, GT.
That is so good.
And
man.
Ben.
Amazing, man. Well done.
Congratulations, dude. Congratulations. And I do think maybe like next, is that the first charity stream you've done? Or have you done it
It
before?
is.
Is it?
Yeah, no, first, yeah.
How did you feel doing like 12 hours?
I've actually done 12 hours before. I did 12 hours of After the Fall, like their last update. We did 12 hours, but I just did it for the channel at that point. So, you know, I love the game, so I don't mind doing it. But I thought this time we're gonna do it. Let's do it for something special. So
Yeah.
and breast cancer is such a big such a big thing, and it touches so many people. So
Well, what is the cancer ratio now? How many people is it out of so many? It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like, was it 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 or in some form?
yeah, it's got to be something crazy because I mean, as soon as I announced it, there was so many people that were part of the VR community that reached out to say, congrats for doing this one because this affects me because of this, or my mom died because of this, or my aunt had it, or my sister, or whatever. So it's just such a big thing that affects so many people, and for our community, our VR community, to step up like that, I thought it was pretty special.
That's very special, man. And you were playing after the fall because they released their newest patch, I believe, newest bit of DLC, which weighed in at 6.6 gig. I think it was the update for Steam. Yeah. How did you find it?
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, we had Tam2 on. He said that it's by far their largest update they've ever done content-wise. And yeah, I thought there was a ton there, man. New weapons, new map, new harvest map, new horde map, which I thought was amazing. And damn, that game is just fun to play. There's not many games you get 4 people in to play, right? You get 4 people
So good.
across
And
every platform.
how about the mutator runs too? I mean, if all the new levels weren't enough, now you can mutate your levels, you can mutate your weapons. I mean, I feel like it was a pretty big level up for this game in terms of playable content and replayability.
Almost 200 new ways to mod your weapons, right? So you can get guns that have like 1-shot kills. You can like modify like pistols to be fully auto. There's all kinds of crazy things you can do to your weapon system to bring the replayability up even more. I can't get enough ATF. I just want to play it all the time.
Yeah,
I think it's worth mentioning that you didn't get a win on a master run of the new level until Skiva and I were in there on the squad.
that
Just
is true.
Thought it was worth mentioning.
Alex?
Well, I'd like to mention that we won before they went live with the stream. So yeah, eat it, son.
I mean, no one saw it, so it doesn't count.
So what you've been playing this week? Like, give me your favorite game of the week so far. What you've been doing last 7 days since last Monday? Anything in particular that pops into your minds?
I'm going to say Half-Life 2 VR.
Yeah.
God, it's so
Yeah.
good. It's so good. I can't stop. I'm not going to stop playing this game till I'm done. It is so good.
I was waiting for that. Anyone else?
I've been playing. I put a lot of time so far into NFL Pro Era. I'm enjoying that rather well, and Cyberpunk 2077 VR mod is pretty solid as well.
Yeah, I've heard he's made a lot of updates to that and stuff, and performance changes and a few other bits. I need to play it more. I didn't really play it much before, but I didn't really play the game in the first place that often.
Well, I'll tell you what will help your performance pretty significantly, or at least for me it did. I was going into the game settings and enabling the FSR and putting it on ultra quality mode. It gave me actually a pretty significant bump, not only in frame rate, but quality of video quality.
And you're on the G2, I would say exclusively, but you're pretty much on that for PCVR, aren't you, all the time?
That's right.
Yeah. What about you, Bradley? You playing games still? Or you still hustling the tech?
I hopped into Half-Life 2 VR again a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much all I did this week in VR. I didn't have much time to actually enjoy VR compared to research VR. Oh God, my life! What has it become?
Well, you're going to be telling
VR
us.
chat.
Yeah, you're going to be
I
telling
didn't
us
even get
about
time to do VR chat. No, I'm lacking. I'm becoming a nobody. I'm not playing these finicky VR games. Oh my God. Oh, it's terrible.
Right,
Sorry.
just have some fun, man. Just have some fun and play. Take some time for yourself, bro.
The voices won't let me.
I was going to say, the truth is he probably gets such a rush out of doing this, what he's doing anyway. That's all that matters, man. That's all that matters, as long as you're having a good time. What about you, Ben? What you played so far? I know you've been on holiday, actually, technically, for the other week. So
Yeah, I've been away for a week, so I've been playing. I'm not even ashamed to say it. I've played about 30 hours of Disney Dreamlight Valley, which is not a VR game.
I've been in there too.
Yeah, man.
Really? What is it?
Yeah, it's basically like Animal Crossing, but with Disney characters. So you just build a little village, and like Mickey Mouse comes to stay, and you make friends with him. It's pretty cool.
Sure.
God, my 7-year-old daughter's gonna love that, guys.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Perfect game for 7-year-olds and me. Like it's like a weird. cross culture thing. But no, I'm actually back on Saints and Sinners. I'm replaying Saints and Sinners because I'm just trying to get a full playthrough done, including aftershocks, before the new game drops. Because I just have this niggling feeling it's gonna be October. I don't know that for sure, but I think Chapter 2, it makes sense. Spooky game, spooky season. So I want to get it done in the next kind of month or so. Just blast through a playthrough, so I'm fresh and ready. And I'm just loving it. It's just great to go back and just see how fucking good that game is still. Like, it's just such a
that game
reminds
me. That game reminds me how little everything else has come forward since.
It's exactly what I was saying when I was playing it the other day.
It's crazy. You play it and you're like, this feels so fresh.
That and like Boneworks, you go back to them and you're like, things haven't really moved since this point. It's kind of like that was the last kind of step forward, I guess, in terms of VR games and the way that in which they're growing. And then things have kind of stagnated since the Quest 2. So going back to those, they're like really sharp, fresh. I hate that picture that keeps coming up on Bradley's thing.
What is it? Is that Thermal Bradley?
Thermal version.
Look how hot his brain is.
So hot and sexy. Oh my God. Look at it.
He's got a hot brain.
Your hair's not, though. Your hair's yellow. What's going on there?
It's not his hair.
Oh, it's the grease, Anyway. Good natural coolant,
Oh my goodness. What about you, Eric? What have you been up to?
Hell of a lot after the fall.
Clearly
for the stream and just because I freaking love that game. And I've been replaying, or not replaying, but playing the old new DLC for me of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, because we're going to be covering it for Virtual Strangers this Wednesday. And I had bought the DLC when it dropped, and I never freaking played it. I just let it sit there in my library, and man, why do I wait for these things? I do this all the time. I buy something, I let it sit and wait because I have so many other things to do, and then I play it and go, why did I wait to play this? This is better than the regular game.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people said that. I mean, so that ties us, or brings us up to talking about PSVR 2. Obviously, we know that some people went hands-on with PSVR 2 now. Immensely jealous, crazily jealous, couldn't believe it. It made me feel a bit sick, and then I was then happy for them afterwards. But yeah, our own Mike VR Waste from the community, he went, which I thought was incredible.
Thank God.
Yeah, I was so like, he's not pressed. Categorically, he's not pressed, and he got the same treatment as them. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because Mike's coverage obviously was the first that I saw that day, and
you're gonna say it's one of the best.
Yeah, I was a bit taken aback by it, that he was able to pull this off. So kudos to him, and kudos to Sony for recognizing the quality of work that he does. You say he's not pressed categorically, but the quality level of his work clearly on that level. So kudos to him, kudos to Sony, and yeah, pretty amazing.
He did great. It was super impressive. The quality of his video, the coverage of the information, it was really good.
And I thought he actually answered stuff that the community wanted to know as well. Like he was talking like a fan of VR, if you know what I'm saying. Sorry, Ben.
All right.
No, I was just echoing what everyone else is saying. Like, Mike's been around for so long, the quality of his output is in line with an IGN. It's in line with a Kotaku. It's in line with the Eurogamer. And yeah, it's specialist because it's VR, but like, realistically, if you're looking for a VR publication, yes, he's a content creator, but if you're looking for a VR publication, he's one of the best. He probably is the best in that field. So it's great to see him there and representing, and they knew they were going to get a high quality video at the end of that, and they did. His video was stunning. And out of all the coverage, and I didn't watch all of them, but I watched like a handful, you could tell he's a specialist in the field because he spoke about things that others didn't speak about. They were a little bit more kind of generalized. Everything they were speaking was kind of just a general feeling of playing VR, but his was a little bit more specific. It's just great to see. And yeah, it was just good to see that the impressions overall were pretty positive. Globally positive, to be fair. I'm
very
pretty positive is playing it down.
So first of all, I want. Sorry, go on, Eric. Sorry.
I was just going to say thank God, because I mean, I still want to hit Sony a little bit here. Only one VR content creator got a chance to do this, and everybody else was either a tech. I mean, Eurogamer was in there, and he definitely covers VR, which is great.
Oh, Ian,
yeah.
Ian,
but come on, there are, yeah, and he did a great job too. By the way, his videos with him as Mike's, to me, they were the two best.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like Ben Lang deserves some recognition here too. He did an excellent article. The only one out of all the coverage that I saw that actually mentioned the Fresnel lenses and God rays, which was a big question for me, knowing that Sony was moving. Yeah. So shout out Ben Lang for doing an excellent job as well.
The only thing is he put that near the end, didn't he? So a lot of people might have clicked off before he got to talking about kind of the negatives of the PSVR 2.
Well, actually, it was a positive. He said that the God rays were pretty much, I mean, they were there, but barely noticeable.
He was talking about reprojection, wasn't he?
We had a few people that mentioned ghosting and reprojection. I'm actually can't remember if he was one of them or not, but I would say yes, probably so.
Yeah, David Heaney mentioned the ghosting issues as well.
Yeah, wasn't that to do with games being like double framed from 60 to 120 for those demos?
Yeah, reprojection.
Come on, Brad, this is your time. This is your time to shine.
That's what they're saying right now. Yeah, I think it's probably true because you don't really get ghosting issues with Fresnel, but Pancake, that's gonna be a fun one when people start getting low quality Pancake headsets and they're like, I see everything multiple times. Oh God, so yeah.
I'd like to point out that this particular issue with the reprojection and ghosting is something that different people are sensitive to on a different level. This is something that certain people had issues with PSVR 1. Now, I didn't particularly, maybe on just a couple of games. But I think if this is something that bothered you on PSVR 1, it's likely something you're going to notice again. And if it wasn't an issue for you before, it's probably not going to be one now.
From my understanding, it's a software issue anyway. It's something that the developers do, not the hardware. You don't have to do the reprojection from 60 to 120. You can just have the game run in native 90 hertz and be fine. It's when you try and do tricks with it that you have issues. You try and trick the system to run 60 frames power, but you reproject it up to 120, and that's when you run into issue. Am I right, Brad?
Well, there's a lot of things that can be put into account. It could just be that I remember I was reading stuff about how like eye tracking, you have to kind of compensate the gaze of where you're looking with the reprojection system a lot of times, and it could just be the software for the reprojection is unfinished if that truly is the problem. So
see, I think a lot of PSVR games were 60 to 90 reprojected over in general, because I remember when I first got a code for Windlands, one thing he was very proud of was that there was no reprojection in it. So he said, if you ever want to see a PSVR game running at full spec kind of thing, full imagery, Windlands was the game. And that's when I started learning about it all, To think that headset back then done 120 as well. It's pretty crazy.
And how about Polybius? Polybius said a native 120. Amazing.
Yeah, that was such a trip to play as well. What did you think of the form factor of it? Because I thought it looked a little bit bigger than what I was expecting. Because someone like done some memes and stuff on Twitter and out of Mike wearing it and stuff. It seemed to come out quite far. What did you think of the form factor of the headset itself?
It looked like a PSVR to me. It looked very similar in shape. Looks very similar in form and function. And I'm okay with that. Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit more bulky than what we would consider next gen. But I would point out that, at least in my opinion, the original PSVR still probably the most comfortable headset I've ever had on my face. So, I'm okay with it.
I think that shone through in what a lot of people were saying as well, because although it did look a bit bulkier than probably many were expecting, I think every single write-up mentioned how light it was. It was noticeably lighter than the Quest. I remember before the Quest 2 came out, and most of the write-ups were saying that it's surprisingly heavy. And now this is kind of the opposite. Everyone's saying it's surprisingly light. It's lighter than the Quest 2. It feels like you're not even wearing anything on your head. I think it, as you say, it looked like a PSVR. Like it just looked like a slightly fancier PSVR. With the kind of the accordion-like facial interface that kind of looked like it should be kind of spongy. It sounds like it's comfortable. I'm not too fussed about what it looks like. I'm fussed about what it looks like inside.
I'm fussed about the controllers. I think out of everything, because I always think back to when I first got the PS5, and there was some like things online where people were saying, it doesn't, like, Xbox didn't feel next gen, but the PS5 didn't. It's definitely down to the controllers. Even now, like, I've been playing Resident Evil 8 again, using that DualSense controller. It's just so good, and I think that will add so much to VR. Those controllers will add so much, but I'd like to know how much they cost to like. I mean, are we going to get the same treatment as we do DualShocks, where you get different colors? I've got so many questions on this generation of like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. Like Sony coming back into the game is just fucking huge, you know.
I'm getting really excited. Like I'm kind of one of those people where like I might have a vacation planned and it's like a month away, but it's not until I'm like 4 or 5 days away that like the excitement really starts to hit me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to leave. Like this is getting exciting. Like that's where I'm starting to get with the PlayStation. Like I've been knowing it's coming for a long time and like it hasn't really been real. But once all these videos came out and I'm like starting to see people use it and I'm like realizing that I'm gonna have one at some point, like here that I'm gonna be able to put on, like I want to get my hands on it. Like I want to get those controllers in my hands. I want to play something. Like I'm definitely getting pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and a lot of people, have been discussing the word is out that PSVR isn't backwards compatible or with PSVR 2 or vice versa, whatever you want to put it. And then emerging from that I think everyone like knee-jerk reacted to that, including me, where on the podcast they said you will not be able to play PSVR games on the PSVR 2. And then I started seeing rumours of actually developers are almost enhancing those games in-house to bring them to PSVR 2. What do you guys think about that, apart from it being awesome? You know,
I mean, that's what you want. Here's what you don't want. You don't want some guy grabbing the first time ever VR, grabs a PlayStation VR 2 and plays Rush of Blood, and it clicks off of him. You know, it goes to a power off screen or a menu screen every 2 seconds, or you're just getting a bad. Some of those games, okay, they're great for what they were, right? They're great games, but you want the best you can get out of the new hardware. I don't want to really play the old games, just port it over and put it on the new headset. I want it to look better. So if I can get these companies to remaster their games and then put them back on there, if I can play them better than what they were before, that's ultimately what we want. Now, you're not going to get every one. You know, there are games that probably Rush of Blood may not get fixed. They didn't fix it for the PlayStation 5, so they might not fix it for the PlayStation VR 2. But most of them will, and they'll remaster it, and it'll be a better experience than it would be if you're playing a 6-year-old game on new hardware.
I think it's kind of twofold thing. I think it's like I'm just scanning across the faces in this podcast right now and kind of trying to tally up ages of everyone that's here. But like, I think there's certainly a generational thing when it comes to backwards compatibility. I mean, like, I remember having the N64, and quite clearly I knew that my N64 game wouldn't work on a GameCube. Like, and I grew up with that as an acceptance. Kind of, I would keep my old machine if I wanted to play my old games. But then as we've got older and tech's moved forward, it's great to see backwards compatibility becoming such a focal point, and consoles like Xbox and PlayStation driving that forward and making sure there's parity in the games move forward. But I think in this instance, it's such a different and such a unique situation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, it doesn't take long. If you just get the PSVR out and look at that hardware and look at the Move controllers and what Sony kind of created for it, it's the most cumbersome VR headset to use, I think, personally, from just interacting with your game's point of view.
100% is.
And devs had to get clever and had to find unique ways to allow the player to move their character around in those spaces with the little cylinders with the light orbs on top. So, like, I think there's a lot more manpower and work needs to go into almost redeveloping these games, like Eric just said, to get them running on this new system, but not just getting them running, but kind of taking advantage of the new system and what it can do, rather than just pushing Iron Man onto there because they know it will sell, or they'll know people will go out and buy it. But I think there's a lot. It's a lot more nuanced, and I think Sony saying no as a blanket response is clever, because then the onus falls onto the developers as to whether they want to go back in and do the work to re-release the game. If they said yes, then people would just assume all the games would work across all consumers would be like, my PSVR 1 game will work now. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I know it caused a lot of emotional response online. People did seem to be quite frustrated by it.
I get so emotional. I do. I literally in an hour, I decided that's it. I'm going to go and buy a PS4 Pro. I'm going to get my headset, and I'm just I've had so many different consoles, and I've sold them all, and I regret them all. But PSVR is definitely one that I never will get rid of, because it changed. It meant so much to me.
Well-
And from that podcast, I was like, that's it. Like that's going to be a whole unit now that I've got to look after, put away. And then, yeah, sorry.
No, you can still use your PS5. Like it's just saying you can't use your PSVR 2. Like
Right.
you can use your
Oh, yeah.
PS5 with the camera and
Yeah,
your
but some of the
PSVR
games
1
don't
headset.
work. Like I need to play Rush of Blood. Like I love Rush of Blood.
You can't
It
you?
works. Yeah, I played it last
works.
week.
Oh, someone said some games don't work on PS5.
There's one or two. I think. What's the name of that wave shooter?
Dude,
that
if you
has,
can't
like-
remember it, it doesn't matter. Like
exactly.
Come on.
But with regard to this issue specifically, I think that people within our bubble here, the VR enthusiast bubble, I think we had some unrealistic expectations because, you know, when we went from Rift CV1 to Rift S, it was a similar thing, you know, going from an outside in base tracking system to an inside out. And Oculus did a great job of creating this kind of emulation software and having all the games work on day one. Same thing with Steam VR, moving from like Vive to Index. But what people really don't consider, and you know, Benjo very astutely pointed out a moment ago, the Move controllers are the difference. You know, CV1 controllers and Rift S controllers and Quest controllers, they're all basically the same from a configuration standpoint. But with the Move controllers having no thumbsticks, each developer that made a game for PSVR 1 had to figure out locomotion on their own. And basically what that means is that there is no catch-all that Sony can do on their side to kind of make everything work. It does fall upon the developers. And I mean, Sony certainly couldn't require all, you know, 500 or 600 studios to just make their games work magically on the new hardware. So yeah, the expectations clearly a bit unrealistic on the part of most VR enthusiasts out there. And if you ask me, I think the way that it's working out is for the best anyway. To get you know, remasters of the best games, I'd rather have that than being able to play some
when I get it
good
confirmed,
dog, bad dog.
I just want it confirmed. I want some developers to just stand up, like, because I've not seen that yet. All I've heard is rumors and murmurs.
I don't think you'll see it for a while. I mean, it's every single game that gets announced right now for the PSVR 2 is a big deal because we only know of so few of them currently. You know, we've got like what Demio, Tales of Galaxy's Edge. So I think if, let's just say for argument's sake, Skydance are going to do a remaster version of Saints and Sinners, it's going to run PSVR 2, blah blah blah. I think
that might overshadow Chapter 2. Do you think?
I don't think it would. I think it would overshadow Chapter 2, but I think it would. I don't think they'd go out on their own right now to confirm that without like Sony's go ahead kind of thing. Like it feels like they're very meticulously crafting how they want to launch this thing, showing games off piecemeal, kind of building it up. I don't think any devs are going to come out and be like, oh yeah, we're doing this until it's kind of. I think Sony would want part of that announcement to kind of bolster whatever offering they're creating here. I do think games that exist on PC VR that also existed on PlayStation VR, like the Hitmans of the world and like the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, have got a higher chance of appearing on that platform in some form, but it'll probably be a paid thing. I think it'll be a paid. I don't think it's going to be a free upgrade for people that already own it.
Yeah, unless it's in-house, unless it's done by PlayStation.
Would it be that? Oh, what, as in a PlayStation Studio?
Yeah.
You definitely can't stifle technology and the progression of technology to make it so you can play your old games on new hardware, right? The hardware, well, you know, like Wes and Beardo said, the tech here is just so vastly different, from optical tracking to inside out tracking, from thumbsticks to button pushes. You know what I mean? It's like so different that, you know, I would definitely rather rebuy the few games that I want to play if the devs remaster them and make them work with this system than I would to have a system that was held back to work with old games that were, you know, on hardware that was already almost outdated as it came out 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would definitely take this over any other scenario. And I do hope that a lot of these games that I really enjoyed do get remastered from the devs and they do get put back out. And I will gladly pay the fee to support these games on new and improved hardware and experience them like nothing else before, with adaptive controllers and like thumbsticks. Finally, PSVR thumbsticks, right? Like so.
was
give
trying
me
to
the games. Let me pay for
I
them.
was trying to think of how the community reacted when Onward got downgraded because it was cross-platform. Do you remember that? Bloody hell!
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of think that that's maybe that, you know, some when you talk about games being held back and maybe because of previous gen.
You only have to look at things like Cyberpunk, which had a bit of a tumultuous launch, as everyone knows, and many put it down to the fact that they were trying to get that game to run on not just kind of high-end PC and mid-range PC and low-end PC, but also PS5 and Xbox One X and the original Xbox and the people that had the chunky Xbox and the chunky first version of the PS4. Like, you're trying to get one thing to run across all these scopes. And I am a believer in game preservation and backwards compatibility. I do think it's a great thing, but it's kind of like 50% of me believes that. The other 50% is like Skiva said, we do want to push forward and embrace that new tech, and sometimes trying to cater to everyone can hold that back. And you have to take into consideration, we have to make sure all these old games still work, and this new one has to work on the old system, and vice versa. And it's what for me has made these last few console generations, they don't feel like leaps anymore for me. It's like a flat screen gamer as well. They don't feel as big as they used to feel, and I think it's because they're trying to keep in touch with the old platforms and the old games. So
I'd like to play devil's advocate a little bit, since we're all kind of, I feel like everyone's on the same page. So
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, no, like it kind of makes you think about how, like with Steam VR, I mean, they don't even have to just worry about all the different input platforms that people put on there and like all the different changes that mechanics have had over the time, but also all the different systems that are running these games. Like the infrastructure that a small company like Valve has been able to support you being able to play the same games across so many systems is kind of impressive. And the way I think about Sony is they're a much larger company, and I don't mean like, oh, it's they're lazy for not at least providing the tools for devs to just throw up a PS4 version on the store. But I mean, clearly there was no long-term thoughts what they were going to do with the original games at all. And I don't know, I like, and the big thing I keep thinking about is, we're VR enthusiasts, so of course we don't mind supporting devs a second time. But I saw someone in chat said they have like 40 physical copies of PSVR games. Well, what if they don't have the money and they collected this library and they want the PSVR 2 version? Are devs going to figure out a way to support, like, are they going to give those owners an updated version, or is it always going to be a rebuy situation? Because then maybe we're going to go into a port apocalypse for the first year, and it might make gamers even more upset than they would think.
The thing is,
so.
Kevgret in the chat said something like 50% of the PSVR games probably aren't worth porting anyway. And I kind of agree. Like, when I think about going through the stages, if everyone does, sometimes you say a game's really good because something later on you haven't played yet is better. So when you go through stages of playing VR games, like, oh yeah, this is just like this is amazing. Then something else comes out and you think, actually, no, that wasn't that good. This is a lot better. When I think about, I could probably handpick, if I really thought about it, safely 50 games possibly that I'd ever really, really want to invest my time in again out of a library of, I don't know how many games are there, Wes. What do you reckon, 400 on PSVR?
I'm thinking it's closer to 6, actually.
Wow, really? Bloody hell.
How many are cross-platform though that you can play somewhere else, so you probably wouldn't need to play
Right.
PlayStation VR 2? And here's the thing for me: do you think they did this just to get rid of people talking about the cord on the PlayStation VR 2? They're like, look, we need to change the focus. Let's tell everybody that nothing is going to be backwards compatible, just so we can get rid of the cord. We can get rid of talking about the cord.
I think a point that Brad made there is like really important, and it's something I spoke about before, but you can never truly know kind of like what $40, £40, whatever means to one person. Kind of, we might all be quite privileged and be able to buy 2 or 3 games a month, or we get access to them for free. But to a normal consumer, yeah, they might buy one game every 6 months, maybe longer. So I don't want to kind of minimize anyone's emotional feeling towards it if they have got this library of games and they were expecting something. It's such a interesting debate. Kind of, where do you cut it off? Do you keep, if you buy a game 2 years ago, are you entitled to the upgrade now, considering it has like genuine, people that on the dev end have put work into it. They've upgraded it. It looks better. It runs better. It's got new features. Are you inherently entitled to that because you bought it 2 years earlier? It's such an interesting debate because I don't think there's a right answer. And I don't think there's like a time period that you could necessarily distinguish as you're entitled for this and then you're not, kind of thing. It hasn't been established.
I personally think you're entitled to what you purchased and nothing more. If you manage to get an upgrade later in the future, that's awesome, you know. But if you bought a PlayStation 4 version of Beat Saber that works for the PlayStation VR 1, you are not entitled to the PlayStation 5, PlayStation VR 2 version of the game when they upgrade it for the new controllers and to run on better hardware. You know, like, I think as enthusiasts, we're forgetting about the fact that there are going to be literally millions of new people joining VR as a result of buying this console. And some of the games that have came out 4, 5, 6 years ago are still some of the best VR experiences that are out there and will be when PlayStation VR 2 launches. And any of the studios who own these games, I guarantee, are already way ahead of us, already have their PS5 versions ready to go. And when this headset comes out, there's going to be a pretty awesome library of established games that had previously come out on the PlayStation VR that have new shiny versions that are improved for the hardware. And people are going to buy them and love them. And hopefully they'll have a way better experience than I did when I bought my PlayStation VR and went into the library and bought 150 games on the summer sale, thinking that every single one of them was going to kick ass.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden I launched them all and they were all shit. I wasted like hundreds of dollars.
Well, I think what you're saying there actually is a good argument for why these games could be free, or at least hold a minimal upgrade fee, because there are going to be so many new players. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you know, bringing along maybe 2 or 3 million people who already own these games, it's just a drop in the bucket with regards to the, I'm sure, tens of millions that they're hopeful that they can sell on the new platform. That considered, there is some precedent too, because we did see what happened with cross-gen games from in the flat realm from PS4 to PS5. A lot of those games were brought over and upgraded with
was
PS5
it like $5
versions.
or £5 you was
Right.
paying for enhanced versions or whatever it was, wasn't it?
Right.
They stopped
Right,
that
and
now,
then
it
they
seems to be.
and right. Well, I mean, we're getting to the point now where it's no longer cross-gen. We're into a new generation now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we saw something similar with Go games coming over to Quest, right? There was a time frame where it was free to upgrade, and then that time frame passed, right?
I do remember that. Yeah, the Go games. Yeah.
Man, you know, I would love to be able to just like buy my PSVR 2, come home, boom, I have like this giant list of games I can see in super high resolution and play with these controllers. But like at the same time, I want all these new games to come to the console. I want all the new hotness to come too. And being able to have like a standardized button set with thumbsticks and buttons that match all of the other VR headsets out there is going to make it so these devs don't have to like do as much as they needed to for PSVR in the first place, which was a very unattractive thing to go in and try to make this happen for button pushes for locomotion and for the optical tracking system and all of that. So while there are both pros and cons to this story, for me personally, I lean obviously more, you know, from what I said earlier, more on the side of the pros being the greater side of the backwards compatibility not being as big of a deal to me, because I want all the new stuff and I want it to work well. And I want to use those thumbsticks and the adaptive triggers and the, you know, the dynamic foveated rendering with the eye tracking and the high resolution, which just wouldn't be a thing.
Do you know what I was going to say? Out of everything I heard, that was probably one of the most important things to me, is that none of them realized that dynamic foveated rendering or eye tracking was even at work. Because you shouldn't. If it worked properly, you shouldn't know it was happening. So that was fucking awesome to hear. I was like, yes.
Yeah, it makes it's magic, right? I heard more than one person say that these games, they don't look like VR games. They just look like next gen console quality games.
Which is like what we get with our mods. When you get to play a game sometimes that wasn't in VR and you get it modded, you sometimes realize that actually There's like a lack of fidelity that comes with that a little bit in some games.
Right. And now we know that it's possible, and it really just makes me all that much more optimistic for what the next few years is going to hold for us.
Talking about the next few years, let's talk about Pico's announcement, which I think is on the 22nd. Who would like to lead out with this? Anyone?
I don't have any specific feelings about this announcement in general, but it is heartwarming, I guess. That's probably the right word. To see Pico going so all in.
Yeah.
On trying to do something to just fight meta.
Trying to be better.
Trying to be better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was your video that I commented on after you came back from Gamescom, but that video of just their utter presence in the middle of Gamescom, and all that did for me wasn't necessarily like elevate how impactful they were. It just drove home how odd it is that meta just aren't there. It made it strange. I was like, that made it all the more obvious that they aren't there taking part in those events, you know, shouting about what they've got, what they're doing. And that was really interesting to me. It feels like Pico are aware of that, and they're like, this is our grounds to kind of fight them. This is where we make some ground back, get out there, get to these events, speak to normal people.
I mean, Eric would have saw Pico at Gamescom. It wasn't from what I've seen in the past, if you guys have ever seen PSVR 2 or Sony at an event, but it was pretty big. You couldn't miss it, could you, Eric?
No, and to me, they rivaled some of the flat gaming booths, which is
Yeah.
what you want to see from VR. And when you go to these huge shows, especially something like Gamescom, which to me is the largest show I've ever seen, and I went to every show this year. You know, and there was no E3, but still, this is the largest gaming show you're going to see. And we had a VR booth that rivaled the largest Sega or Nintendo or whatever booth you saw out there. It rivaled it in size and in the amount of people that were standing in line to play virtual reality. 3 different types of games.
Walkabout golf, dude. Watching everyone on like a putting green, like 4 or 5 people in VR headset. It's really heartwarming to see, because at the moment, I always feel like we're a small community. No matter how big someone's following is, I always feel like it's tight. We all know each other, you know. I don't know there's any channels that don't know each other. To see contractors, people playing contract, I'm like, oh my God, it's contractors. It's like, oh, it's crazy feeling. Like,
I've been all over the place with Pico. So when Pico did their announcement a while back, and they did their European launch, their soft launch, their beta launch, or whatever you want to call it, when they released 22,000 units for people to buy, I destroyed Pico not because of the headset. I'm like, why are you even announcing this? If you're going to do this, just do it quietly and you know, and be quiet and do your thing. Don't come out and boast that you're going to be a meta competitor and then release 22,000 units on a beta test. Okay, just be quiet and do it at that point. Don't do a big press conference and a dog and pony show. So I was all over him for that.
We had that discussion, Ben. Do you remember when we found out about the numbers? We were all like, this sounds like they're going to bring the pain. And it was like, yeah, we're doing 20,000. We're like,
it was laughable. It was like, why? Just don't announce. I mean, I had no problem with what you're doing. Just be quiet and do it. Do it quietly. And then when you're ready, then you do the big announcement thing when you're ready. But we all will benefit from Pico. So there's people out there that are like, I want nothing to do with China. I want nothing to do with ByteDance. I want nothing to do with what they stand for and what they can do to us or get from us. Okay, but if you're not going to be a part of it, guess what? That doesn't matter. It's still going to benefit us because a lot of people will. And competition in a standalone market where there is none is good for us all. So whether you're completely against it or not, what Pico is doing will benefit all of us.
Yeah.
Competition is always good. It drives the best out of everybody. And right now, as much as I love my Quest 2, and I do love what Meta have fundamentally done for VR and continue to do for VR, you know, pushing it into the masses, pushing it into the homes of people who wouldn't necessarily have purchased VR if they didn't have that entry price point headset that they can get their hands on. They haven't had competition. They still don't really have competition. And I think there's so many facets to it, but it allows them to kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit. Someone coming in and putting a bit of pressure on is going to be good for everybody because it just creates that environment where real kind of...
Well, you can't sit still. You can't sit still.
Yeah.
You can't sit still.
Yeah. That's when we'll start to see real kind of developments.
Rising tides raise all ships, right? Like, and they realize that, and the way that they've been subsidizing VR for the last few years is unsustainable. So I kind of feel like while it is significant that Pico is stepping up and really be trying to become the first real competition that Meta has had in the standalone / social VR space, I don't think Meta's all that concerned about it from a big picture point of view.
That can be. I hope that arrogance doesn't. Well, you know. So let's talk about Pico 4. Brad, over to you. You probably got one, or you made it, or you helped make it. I don't know. What do we know about? What do we know about Pico 4, dude?
Pan your camera right. Pan your camera right. Let's see it. Go ahead.
Well, it's got actually there was an image leaked today. They accidentally posted on their Weibo, basically Chinese Twitter, of the full design, so you can actually see what it looks like. And
oh, did you put it in the chat?
I did not put it in the chat.
Oh man, I could chuck it up now if you got it. If anyone wants to see it.
Yeah, let me put a link for that.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, this was an accident, and they did take it down right after. But you know, people save this stuff. You can't put something up the internet without expecting people to save it. But it's a pancake headset. It's gonna be basically like an upgrade Quest 2. That's more comfortable to wear. It's really the best way to explain it. It's gonna have a slightly higher resolution displays. It's reported to be 2160 by 2160. I was talking to sources actually about bill of materials. The bill of materials is only about like $60 more than the Pico Neo 3 to make per unit. And if they're really going to be heavily subsidizing it, then it's possible they could, if they really wanted to, hit like a $400 mark.
That could be huge. That could be just that, and that alone would be huge if they could get anywhere near the Quest 2 price. But with those specs, that would change everything, and then you're looking at a different Quest 3, I believe, at that point.
I think it's gonna be. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I think it's gonna be very competitive. But I do hear that they're not probably going to launch in the USA right away. It's gonna be hugely European focused for the first time, and then.
Yeah, why is that? Does anyone know why that is?
Well, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about banning products from this company nationwide from coast to coast based on the affiliations with the Chinese Communist Party. So maybe there's some hesitancy to put that kind of funding into a big drive before the election, before they know what way the political tides are going to go. It's a lot of money at stake, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
There's probably still a bit of a I don't know enough about it, but I think there's still probably a little bit of a gap in the market. My dad lives in Germany, and he wanted a Quest 2, and he couldn't buy a Quest 2 because they don't sell them in Germany. So there's kind of this European market gap, I guess, where if Pico can get in there, people who want a Quest 2 will go, well, I can't buy a Quest 2 unless I import it, so I'm going to buy a Pico because specs-wise, it's pretty much the same. And yeah, it might not do Resi 4 and Beat Saber, but it's going to do After the Fall, and it's going to do Walking Dead, and it's going to do all these other things. So yeah, it might have something to do with that as well.
Joe, I
It's
thought
not
it was
easy to build a store either. I'm sorry.
so sorry.
I was gonna say it's not easy to build out a store either. I mean, we talk about standalone stores. I mean, they recently just were like hiring for their North American division of Pico. So to build out an entire store and make sure you have that ready to launch, whether it's going to be, I assume it'll be mobile based, just like the the Quest 2 store is. That's not an easy thing to do. So I can understand where they would be a little bit behind.
I'm trying to find this image. Sorry.
The image that Brad threw in there, the controllers look a little bit more akin to the PSVR 2, like the way the ring.
I thought they looked like the Pimax swords. I thought they looked a bit like that, but I'm trying to get this bloody image up.
Ring kind of goes around the top from the flat fascia and down to the bottom of the grip. It's
Please don't be like the Pimax swords in any way.
It reminds me of that, though. I'm probably wrong, but where the fuck did I save that image? I clicked save image. I don't know where it went.
I don't know if you can still just see the Zoom meeting, but it's in the chat at the bottom.
Oh, is it in the Zoom meeting? Oh, I went onto the bloody I went to the Twitter group.
It's on the chat right here.
Oh man. Yeah, for sure.
I saw someone chat like, should we compare this device to the Quest 2 Pro or Quest Pro? I don't think so at all. In fact, I think Quest Pro is like, I don't even think Pico is gonna. I don't think either company is gonna market these headsets against each other. They're gonna be very focused on. I think there's gonna be a huge remarketing push for Quest 2 during holidays, around the same time this new Pico headset comes out. But Quest Pro is like, again, it's really not gonna be a gaming device whatsoever, and they're going to market it not like
What about
that.
the Pico Pro? Because there's two models, right?
I have a feeling that the Pico Pro might be more targeted, but at the same time, I still think there's going to be a huge gap in features between the Pico Pro and people that might want Quest Pro, in my opinion. I really think the star of the show for Pico is going to be the standard unit with competition with the Quest 2.
I think any star of the show right now is still going to be the cheaper priced unit, just based on people wanting to get into VR and wanting to, living through some crazy times right now. Like in terms of money for most people, it is tighter than it's ever been, and I do think there's still a lot of confusion in the VR community in general about the Quest Pro, Project Cambria, and kind of just a lot of people not fully understanding or grasping what the hell this thing is, and it's an interesting discourse to watch unfold where people are kind of expecting this thing to be basically the Quest 3 or the next headset they'll buy. And at some point they are going to, well, not long now, I guess October 11th, I'm sure they'll learn that this potentially $1,500 headset is not the gaming headset that they thought it was.
I think people are going to have a bit of clarity here with what Meta's driving at after the Apple headset gets announced. And I think then people will start to understand that this $1,500 Pro headset from Meta might just be the cost-effective answer to the $2,000 or $3,000 Apple headset that's going to be out next year.
The funniest things that I tweeted recently was I didn't only report some bill of materials for the Pico headset that I was hearing from friends in the supply chain, but also I reported like around the bill of materials for the full Quest Pro, that apparently Meta is paying Gore-Tech per unit is around $730. And the first thing people replied is like, oh, that means they can sell for $800.
Yeah,
that's what's gonna happen, right? And it's like that kind of shows you what kind of this subsidized hardware, like the Quest 2 and stuff, is really like. They expect Meta to never take a profit on hardware ever, and I think when you start looking at comparisons with other markets like smartphones and how much they pretty much get double, they charge double for the bill of materials. I think it's going to be very similar in this case for the first time for Meta.
I thought it was too funny when the Quest 2 went up in price and there was a huge output of people like garbage. It's garbage now. I would never buy it. I wouldn't buy it for $100 more than before. It was great. Now, I wouldn't even bother with that $100 more. What are you kidding me? Still a freaking standalone VR headset you can put in your head for $400. What are you talking about? We're so spoiled. We're such a spoiled country and nation and world. Garbage.
Shame on you. Shame on you, people.
I mean, come on, man.
I hope everyone feels bad in the chat. Okay. Well,
please.
I would have paid double to not have a Facebook account attached. No kidding. I would have paid double. And $100 is a steal to not have a Facebook account attached. And if that's what it costs to make that happen, cool. I'm down.
I still think it's
a very real belief for a lot of people. It's a real thing. Yeah.
I'll never forget when Oculus went to Facebook, and it's almost like no one really made that connection between that. I know they said like you had to sign in and stuff. That was the real kick for a lot of people. But I had like voicemails from this girl on Instagram. And she was like, I've got to like not play my Quest anymore. That's it, done. You know, I can't play it. I've got to sell it. I can't get money back for these games. And I'm like, wow, that's how strongly people feel about it. And I think, obviously, I could see what people are writing, but to hear someone say that stuff, it was like, it's just mad. And then now you've got the Meta accounts, which it seemed like I didn't really understand. Now, bear in mind, I just want to point out that I haven't really got a problem with the Facebook Meta thing, otherwise of choices I've made in the past. But when they said Meta account, I was like, oh, well, it's still Facebook because it's Facebook account, Meta account, Quest account. I didn't really understand why everyone celebrated it personally. I don't know.
I
Well,
think
your life is attached to Facebook. You have photos on there of your family, associations.
Yeah, but isn't
with who
Facebook
your
going to be
dad
Meta?
is. Like,
isn't Facebook?
yeah, it is,
event-
but it's still separated. If your Facebook account gets hacked, you don't lose your games. Your Facebook account is huge. It's in front of everyone. It's like this thing, this bullseye that like, you know, that people attack, and you don't want that stuff associated with each other. You know, Microsoft doesn't make you sign into LinkedIn to use your Microsoft
No, I
Windows
get
Mixed
that.
Reality
Yeah,
headsets. Like, you know what I mean? It's a very personal thing that contains everywhere you go, where you check in, who your friends are. That shouldn't be attached to your games. And
Right.
you know, so where it is technically the same thing, it's the same company gathering the same data. It's just that these associations are still a little bit separated now, and it's easier for me to deal with. I'll tell you that.
Can't
Yeah,
stop. I wish that Microsoft made people sign in with a LinkedIn account. I'd be checking people's like job histories before I played Halo with them and
Right?
stuff. Like, do I really want to play Halo with this guy? He worked at I don't know McDonald's for a year. What's going
He's
on?
endorsed for headshots.
Yeah,
See, it sounds ridiculous when any other company does something
yeah, it
like
does
that,
sound
right?
ridiculous. Yeah, for sure.
well, people, I mean, some of us put quite a bit of money into building these libraries. And I think the difference is today versus a year ago, people don't have to worry about losing all of that equity that they've built up when they want to go onto their social profile and spread medical misinformation, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing
Dis-
is Oculus early on. I mean, even Palmer Luckey came out and said, "We will never ask you to merge your Facebook account with
Right.
your Oculus Quest or your Rift or whatever they want to do it. We will never do that." And then that quickly changed, and they forced everybody to do it. So I think if they didn't do that, I mean, or if they never said that and they just opted out, it would have been a problem either way. It's just that, you know, when the face of Oculus comes out and says we will never do that, and then they end up doing it, a lot of people got pissed off, and I don't blame them. To me, it wasn't that big of a deal. I use my Facebook as a tool. I don't use it as a platform for me to put my personal business on. And most people shouldn't. You should use it as a tool. Don't allow Facebook to use you. You use Facebook.
So the Meta accounts are just the Oculus accounts of what they tried to get rid of. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
Sounds
a fair analogy. That it's basically, it's not the evolution of the Facebook account, but it's the evolution of the Oculus account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did it because some people were struggling to do it, and I found it very simple. But I think it was very simple to do via desktop kind of thing, rather than in the
Right.
headset or some shit like that. But
Yeah, and you have to have some kind of account tied to this. Otherwise, there's no way to track what you're buying, whose library is and what, right? There has to be something. So we all knew that we couldn't get away completely scot-free, right? There had to be something. But I am a lot happier with this solution, personally. And I think a lot, from what I'm seeing in the chat too, a lot of people kind of feel the same. So
yeah.
Will Pico make you get a TikTok account, you think?
Mm-hmm.
right.
Let's hope not.
Well, I think when I signed in my we've all got Picos, have we? Here? Have we
No,
got-
you-
Anyone else?
Mhm.
You have, Eric, yeah?
No, no.
Yeah, I don't have any Pico. I
Nothing.
don't have a TikTok account. I've got none of that.
Brad? Oh, okay. So, Ben, pretty sure you and me have got Picos, and
Yeah, I got a Neo 3.
we didn't do any account set up with
Nah,
ByteDance or anything.
It's not a bot. It was just I think I logged into it probably 3 or 4 times. Like, it was just an account specific for the Pico headset and to access the storefront. It didn't have anything to do with like a TikTok or a ByteDance or anything like that.
I was just trying to
it's
think, like how many times I fired that headset up. I struggle to find.
You can tell it really won us both over. Like, we're both clearly enamored with the Pico Neo.
I think it's just hard to justify putting it on again because like there's no games on there that are specific to it. So like my Quest is there, it's already got the nice strap on it, it's all sorted and ready, and most of the codes developers that give out aren't even on Pico. Whenever there's a new game, no one ever sends me a Pico code. It's always Quest codes. So it's kind of like, what do I do here? Do I have to like literally say to every developer, no, I don't want Quest automatically. I want a Pico code. And yeah, it just feels weird. It just sits there. I charge it up now and again. I go on a store. Do you know what I thought was quite amazing though is if you got a Pico day one, you have got so much to choose from. Like there's so many games on there already. You're like, wow, it is insane. You'd spend a fortune.
But is Pico 4 going to be backwards compatible? No, I'm just joking.
But where you do see success of these devices is you go to any VR arcade and you're going to either see a Pico Neo or a 3, or you're going to see a Vive Focus 3, right? Because these devices have like the terms of service that can accommodate business and enterprises and using this tool to make money. So, you know, it has a huge market, right? It's just not, it's not for us, right? Not for the people that want to log in and use this thing as like the VR, you know, Xbox, right? Where we go in and we play games and we hang out together. This is really more of a business tool. And maybe they'll change that, right? With their plan and how they are coming in to compete with Meta. But as of right now, they're dominating the enterprise market. And then if they can nail any of the consumer market, it's just another win for them.
They just need to play a ton of Pico ads on TikTok and they'll sell tons of units in the West. That's all they have to do. Yeah.
I do watch that. I do watch those ads and see how they're doing, because I don't know about Ben. When they like supplied us with these Pico headsets, it was a real mess at launch. Like we had no games to play, I believe.
I spent money buying games already. I had to buy. I remember you messaged me and you're like, "Bro, why did you do that?" I was like, well, I didn't have any games. Like, I need to play a game on the thing to see what the games are like.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, no. And apparently they'd sent some kind of code that we could access some games. And I never had that, or it didn't work. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The launch process was a mess. But, like, rolling back to what Eric said earlier, like, it was a strange launch anyway. Like, it was just this weird beta-y rollout thing. And it does, it does feel like what they're building towards now is better from what I've heard, from emails I've had, from people I've spoken to. It does feel like this is a lot more organized, or I'd like to hope that it is.
How do you feel though? Like I've always steered away from Pimax. Like I'm always interested in these headsets. I'm always interested in reading them and talking about them and stuff. But when it comes to me wanting to spend my money on stuff, I don't like the idea of someone bringing out a brand new headset to then bring out a brand new headset very quickly afterwards. It kind of makes me think, oh, you know, like I want to get some life out of it. Like I used to enjoy that about consoles, that you had a 5 to 7 year life cycle out of something. And I kind of feel that, I don't know, I mean, with this new headset launching, does that put this already new headset obsolete? What is it, 4 months ago? 3 months ago? Less?
Yeah, less than 6 months for sure.
Less than 6 months for sure.
How does that, is it a knee-jerk reaction?
But we knew they were going to do this. That's why that rollout was so odd, right? Because they were like, hey, if we launch a headset in less than a year, we'll give you 35% off if you purchase one.
Oh,
if you purchase a Neo 3 and we launch a new headset in less than a year's time, we'll give you 35% off the new headset. So we knew already they were coming with a new headset.
That's crazy. I forgot about that.
There was no way they weren't coming with new. You don't say those things unless you're like, we're coming with a new headset. That's the only reason you would ever say that. I mean, everybody knew they were going to come with one. I would have never bought one. I just never would.
Why did Pimax say that then?
Pimax always has grand plans and short paid off.
Pimax is an oddity, right? Everyone in the world seems to know what would make Pimax successful except for Pimax. it's like make a headset, make it awesome, put all your resources into that one headset and crush it. But they're like, here's a new headset a month later, here's a new headset a month later, here's a new headset. No consumer that isn't a VR enthusiast has any idea what the heck's going on over there, that knows the difference between any of the headsets. And they just continue to power these things out without finishing their previous projects. And everyone tells them the same thing. And they don't listen to anybody. And it's very strange. It's just really
set
weird.
Realistic expectations and meet your deadlines. That's what I would say.
Boom. There you go.
The hard part is they have probably the best PC VR headset right now. If you can go through the jank and get it squared out. If you work at it and you can get it squared out, which most people won't, or they won't want to, But if you can, they have the best PC VR headset you're going to put on your head, and that's the part that kills you. Because I know that if they got their stuff straight and they made things a little bit easier, they could really be a big player in the VR market.
What number Pimax are they on?
8K Vision, 8KX Vision, I think that's called now, the new one.
So
Let me
that
ask
thing's
you
good.
this, though. Let me ask you this: who do you know that can run a new game on a Pimax AKX Vision at 200-degree field of view? That, like, do you know? Maybe NASA has a
NASA,
supercomputer powerful enough to run that. Do you
I
know
guarantee
anyone?
you.
Like, I have a 3090 and I can't run anything, like, except for maybe super hot on the lowest settings at 200-degree field of view. It's just not even possible.
I bet you
Very
John
strange.
Carmack could run it on his rig.
Maybe.
On his handheld phone. What are you talking about?
Oh, Brad,
People
you're
are saying
muted,
it's-
dude, if you're talking to us. Oh, if you were, I couldn't hear you. You must have, like, sound...
Test. Hello.
Did you ever, like...
Hello.
Have you got, like, some sort of compression on your mic?
I don't know. I hope not.
Oh, I saw your mouth moving and nothing was happening. I was like, that's
Weird. All right. Sorry. No. We were talking about earlier how like people were complaining that the PSVR 2 is bulky, and it's like
Yeah.
look over time. You look at all these headsets coming out with pancake lenses that make them thinner, and like the center of gravity gets closer to your face, which is, by the way, why people say the PSVR 2 is comfortable. It technically weighs more than a Quest 2, but because the center of gravity is just way balanced about the way that they do it, it's gonna feel lighter to people. And with pancake lenses, that's even more exemplified. So when I look at Pimax and all these headsets, they keep promising and announcing, and they're getting bigger, they're packing more stuff away from your head. Are people gonna care about that compared to the super comfortable headsets that are coming in the next year or two? I don't personally think so. So
The thing looks
Especially
like a
when no
virtual
one can
boy.
run them. You know,
Yeah.
like we had a couple of Pimax 8KXs for Game on Expo, and we were so grateful to have them because here's some really awesome high-end VR headsets that we feel comfortable sharing with the public that are not our own personal daily driving headsets.
They're
So it's
eye-catching as
great.
well. They are eye-catching.
And yeah, they look cool, and you know,
Yeah.
like they worked after troubleshooting, right? But the biggest bummer is that I'm like, cool, man. Well, you know, how awesome are these Pimaxes? And Skiba's like, well, I don't know, because we have to dial back the FOV, we have to dial back all of the features that separate it from anything else. So what's the point?
But people
Yeah,
want
I
'em.
still
People
use
want
my
'em. People were
index.
coming. People were coming in though. Is that the Pimax? Is that the
Mhm.
Pimax AKX? I want to try that. Right? I mean, that's
They did.
that's
It brought
what
in people. Yeah.
That's what Pimax does, because they get you because they look crazy, right? They're huge headsets, but people know that they can be great if you know somebody who can dial them in right. And there's a lot of things you have to do. I mean, there's a ton of settings. You know, Eric Harley was saying in chat that, you know, there's distortion and there's, you know, it can give you headaches. And again, there is, but there are ways to fix it that you can dial it in to get rid of those. But you have to know how to do it. And that's a problem. 90% of the people are not going to go through all that. And
So
that's
either
where
way, you have to downscale the potential of the headset to enjoy the headset.
Yes,
Unless
That's
you
my
have
point.
the sickest rig ever.
Yeah.
but you
Ever.
don't,
Well,
But you don't.
because you
Yeah.
do and you don't.
But with that said, we got to keep in mind here that dialing back the Pimax still gives you significantly more field of view than even a Valve Index. Like
on
a
paper.
dial on paper.
On paper. You know, the index, I had
it does.
multiple Pimax AKXs sitting here for a very long time. And most of the time, unless I was testing, I used my index. And I noticed almost no difference. Like, unless I'm like turning my eyes and I'm really looking from the medium field of view, right? You put that thing on 200 degrees. Yeah, you're like, wow, this is like I'm looking around, but you're getting no frames, right? So when it's on the medium setting, which is what most people with high-end rigs can run this on, the Valve Index is always the clear winner at 144 frames. Like, you know, it's a beautiful, comfortable headset, and the Pimax is uncomfortable. It's bulky, and it's just really hard to make it work right,
Damn.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Damn. Brad,
Subjective, 'cause I have the opposite one. Sorry.
can we talk
It's
about the
subjective.
MetaQuest dongle thing, the AirLink jobby?
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming like within the next couple of weeks officially. I mean, I think it's the most simple, boring product, honestly, in my opinion. It's just a product to simplify the setup experience for people that want to do AirLink PCVR wirelessly with the Quest 2, and seemingly mostly just the Quest 2 at the beginning.
I have a question for you, Brad. Most people would agree that when Rift S got discontinued and Lone Echo 2 came out, that it was a pretty massive blow for PCVR gaming when Oculus kind of got out of the space of funding big budget, high end VR games. So now we're hearing about this, this Oculus branded D-Link thing for AirLink, which is essentially a PCVR product. And then we hear that they've been working for years on this cloud-based system that's going to allow people to use their standalone units to get, PCVR style or quality experiences. Do you think that this could be an early indicator that maybe Oculus is going to return to the PC space, albeit in a very different form factor?
I really think they are betting a lot on cloud within the medium term. But honestly, even when I talk to people, I don't understand their strategy when it comes to PCVR. Like it's like every indication they give publicly, they're like, yeah, we think standalone's the way, standalone only. It's annoying to have a PC. Cloud's going to be for them the one change to that. But in the near term, even with this product launch, I'm like, I don't really know what their strategy is and why they would want to do this, unless there was maybe they're more interested in building a newer platform, not even maybe for gaming, but I would imagine if you're into productivity, where most of your apps is on these other PC platforms to begin with, there might be some benefits to work on compatibility with those things. But I never understand where they're going with their PCVR stuff. It makes zero sense in my brain.
They're working toward getting those legs on those avatars. That's what it is.
But at the same time, we're hearing you hear like the big upgrades to chips and how they're bridging some gaps. They're not obviously going to bridge gaps to giant PCs, but I mean, there's huge improvements over each generation of chips, and there's also a lot of talk about how like custom ASICs and FPGAs working together with these chips can get these sort of more customized features out of things. Like, for example, the biggest example Meta has shown so far is they made a custom chip that works with something like an XR2 purely to render codec avatars. And while that's like still researchy, it shows they're still really trying to get the more edge out of the full standalone thing. And I think the cloud is like what they hope will do, but there's still infrastructure problems and everything. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I think they're just throwing things at the wall and see what sticks first, honestly.
What about Decard? Right. What's happening with Decard? Where is that? Why is no one talking about that? So, you got me so excited about the Decard, man. God. And then everyone went quiet for ages, and I'm like, what's happening? What is happening?
Well, that was my fault, I guess. But I'm
not angry at you, man. It was nice. It was nice.
No. I mean, just as I said before, Valve pretty much decides when to let us have something to data mine, and then we can make our assumptions based on those data mines. And recently, I don't think the last big dump was probably a couple months ago, and that was when they added all the system menus, secret menus in the back end that are like exactly the same as the Steam Deck in terms of like UI and everything. But yeah, it has been quiet. I'm always waiting to make a new Deckard video because those are my favorite. I stay up 48 hours to get that thing out there. I love it. It's my favorite thing ever.
Oh man.
So is that what you think? Do you think they actually leak things for you to data mine? Do you think that's how it is? They don't. So it's not like people going out and actually finding stuff. They're like, okay, we're ready to release a little bit of this, and we'll let you find it.
I think a lot of companies do this, but Valve has gone out in talks and even said they do this on purpose, because it's a way for them to not only get the community excited about what they're working on, but also get feedback without announcing anything. So let's say they put some strings in and say, oh my God, we might have OLED in our headset, and then they look at the community reaction like, oh, OLED's fine, but I'd rather have this. Well, they can make those decisions in the development phase, and that's an extreme example because hardware is a lot more difficult to make changes compared to their software. But yeah, that's their public stance on those things. Not to say that the things that we found might have been too much than they expected. So yeah,
Gabe's so smart. He's doing it himself. He's just there laughing at everybody.
What would you do if
they're
they
smart nerds?
What would you do if they put a message in there for you, Brad? That'd be fucking insane.
Well, the one joke we have in my community is that there's like 3 versions of the Deckard in the files, like hardware references, and one of it's POC-A, which is like probably proof of concept A, and there's POC-C. But then there's a third one they added early this year. That's Deckard Mini D. So everyone in my community is like, oh, Valve's saying you have a Mini D, Brad. Good job.
Mate, prove them wrong, son. Prove them wrong.
Not
who loves
unhinged
mini
yet.
Ds?
Yeah.
Not now. We don't need that now. But
Show us your deck hard.
when the Okay, so let's talk about some VR modding, and we need to talk about Praydog's universal mod. Who's got the info on this bad boy? Anyone here?
No one here. Elliot Tate, I would say, has the DL on that. But no, man, it's very promising, right? It's kind of a universal injector that's going to basically take any Unreal 4 game and hypothetically an Unreal 5 game and turn it into a Luke Ross mod overnight.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, how about Praydog? I mean, that guy's coming on strong. He's quickly becoming the rock star of the PCVR modding space. Everything he does turns to gold.
And there is undoubtedly a VR modding revolution going on right now.
Mhm.
Like every single week, there's something.
Yeah.
I mean, Neon White is the newest one that I need to check out. And I always get the name wrong, but I think it's Ray Carperta.
He's the guy who looks like Wario on Twitter. He's the
That's
Wario
the one.
guy.
That's
the
the
way I
one.
recognize him. Yeah.
The Wario guy. But they're just coming thick and fast. Like we know there's a Bendy in the Ink Machine one. That's I don't think Dr. Beef, but it's part of the Dr. Beef Team Beef situation. Someone's worked on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, this injector looks insane. I mean, I need to get in there and see what these look like running inside the headset. I mean, as someone that used Vorpex for years and who recently went back in and checked Vorpex out.
Oh.
There's kind of this level of acceptance. I think when I first got a PCVR headset, I was like, I think one of the first things I Googled was, can I play any game in VR? Can I play every game in VR? And it led me down the path to Vorpex. And when you're quite new and you start using it, undoubtedly it is cool, but it's like you have to make so many personal sacrifices in your own mind to accept the quality of what you get. You kind of, it's not great, but it's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. And all those it's not great, but it's fine build up. And then you walk away from it for a while and you play things like the Praydog RE mods. And, you play all these fantastic VR mods that are coming out. And you play a lot more native VR. And then you go back to it and all the, it's not great, it's fine, kind of become, it's just, it's not great kind of thing. So for me, this injector, as much as all the work that's gone into Vorpex is brilliant, and I don't want to discredit anyone that's put hard work into that piece of software because it is a great piece of software, but this injector just looks like a Vorpex killer to me. And obviously it's limited to Unreal, but it just looks like this kind of catch-all solution that, from everything I've seen, looks to perform so much better. 6 DOF in engine, detached view from your guns or weaponry, whatever you're using. It just, I don't understand how he's done it.
and it's open source, so any aspiring VR modder out there is going to be able to pick up the work from where he's leaving it off here and make it into a full-blown deal with hypothetically motion controllers and all of these things that make it seem like a more native VR experience. I mean, this is, you said it, a VR modding revolution. This is very much what is taking place right now.
Do you know?
As
Go on.
No, I was going to say, as good as Vorpex was in its time, I don't think that it's gotten any worse or anything like that. I just think that the quality of work of the modding community has gotten so much better over the last 1 to 2 years that Vorpex is just very much getting kind of left behind.
I remember playing Cyberpunk on obviously with Luke Ross mod, and then someone said to me, "Dude, you've got to do a video on the Vorpex version. It's really good." And I was just like, okay. I thought, this is terrible. Like, but I've really got not much patience for setups either. I get a little bit like, I'll give it maybe 10 minutes if I really want to push it half an hour. And then you got that stress of like, if you're a content creator, you're just like, well, I need to make a video today. Like, literally, I've already sat here for an hour. If I give up now, blah, 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 blah. Vorpex, I think that's why I never did it. Because I'd get in there and I'd be like, this just isn't good enough for me. And I don't know why. The other thing I'm worried about is Universal mod is that when that happens, it's not going to be special anymore. Modding kind of then isn't special. At the moment, people go like, oh my God, what, you can play Cyberpunk? Or you can play that, you can play... Then suddenly, it's normalised. And I kind of think to myself, I mean, that's great, but these conversations, I'm glad we're here doing this now, because it's early, but eventually it won't be special, I think.
Well, that's kind of a metaphor for what VR has been, right? I mean, in the beginning, it was this great, amazing thing. And then over time, the 3D doesn't pop so much. And, you've kind of been there, done that for a while until something like PSVR 2 comes along and turns the apple cart over and we start all over again.
Yeah, and kind of like, I guess, a bit of a devil's advocate thing, but I think the worry about a mod like this making it not special, that might be coming from a place within your brain. I felt it in my brain too, your content creator part of your brain, because it's out there. Then anyone can pick it up, put it on any game. Whereas like right now, if we get a Resident Evil mod drop in our laps, it's something exciting to go ahead, make a video series about, showcase it. Wow, look, Resi, this is great, and people have eyes on you, and it's exciting. When this mod drops, realistically, you're going to have to wait for the really special mods to come, the ones like Resi with the motion controls, because otherwise every single week you could do 2 or 3 videos about Ready or Not in VR, Stray in VR.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I meant, I think.
From a content creator point of view, it does remove some of that like specialness, I guess, of the modding scene. But for everyone else, it's like it's the best thing ever. It just means they can sit there, look at their library of games and go, right, which ones of these are built on Unreal?
Do you know my problem? I haven't hardly got any flat games.
So many flat games.
I haven't hardly got any. I think with today's video he did was Sega Rally, wasn't it, or something? He chucked up on Twitter.
It was it looked like Sega Rally, but I don't think it is. I think it's an indie developed rally game.
Oh, it looked really
built
good.
on Unreal. But I'm going to go hog wild with the thing. I'm just going to play everything in VR just to see what it runs like. It's exciting. I mean, earlier today I was mucking around for about an hour and a half with the Saints Row reboot.
Oh, have you tried that before? Didn't you try that before you went on holiday for a little bit? Yeah.
And it was really rough.
Yeah.
Super blurry. I couldn't see anything. Like the vision, it just wasn't overlaid correctly. It was a mess. I went back in today and it's working a lot better, but yeah, it's not great. And I don't think it's going to get much better than it is.
Yeah,
but I'm excited by the prospect of this, just because from the video footage I've seen, it just looks so sharp. It looks to be performing really, really well, and I'm like, it looks a little bit too good to be true.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not, but I need to kind of get my hands on this thing and check it out.
I think with this universal modding, though, you're going to see multiple modders of the same game, and they're going to try and outdo each other because it's a fairly easy process now. And then you're going to see several people try and do it better than the other person and then you can take, instead of putting all your time and effort into just moving into VR, you can work on touch controls support, instead of using gamepad. You can work on, having the 3D be a better effect and look better and not have any flat cutscenes or whatever. I mean, there's going to be so many different things you can do now that maybe you didn't have time to do before as a modder that's probably not getting paid for what you're doing it anyway. So, potentially we could see multiple mods and better mods with this is what's exciting me.
I do think they might use it as like a modding foundation rather than necessarily a catch-all. Kind of like they create this mod exists, and then other modders can come in on top and add their Lego bricks until they've got this.
I just see it becoming the norm. I see modding becoming normal. Like, even I might think, oh, it'd be really nice to see if. I was just going to say, when we're talking about the Praydog thing, he's actually replied to me on Discord. We were chatting, and he was saying, like, at the moment it is gamepad, but he's thinking of using touch controllers as well as the gamepad, which I think we can already do. We did that in Alien. I think Alien Isolation, you could do that. And I actually kind of felt it was like a bit more immersive doing that.
Yeah, you had one motion controlled thing. You could lift your hand up to your head, press a button, it would turn the torch on. On Alien. It was just the torch. That was the only kind of gesture based, but the rest of it was just mapped to the controllers. But I played the whole game like that. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Do we know if Epic or Unreal can patch this to not work anymore?
Oh god, that'd be the next thing.
No, I'm just curious, right? Because if it's a mod, then you would think they could just patch it and just clear the whole thing up. So I'm just curious of how do we know if this is going to be a long-term thing?
I'd be surprised if Epic were to do anything like that. Basically, because I feel like Epic's on board with VR and the whole metaverse thing, and I think that future iterations of Unreal are going to have, a dedicated VR space for people to develop. Not only native VR games, but cross-platform flat to VR games. I think that I would be surprised if they were to take some kind of action to kind of stamp all that out.
It depends if it stops them making money. As far as I'm concerned, that's what it's going to come down to.
True.
And that's what it's all about.
Right, and we need to, in that context, we need to consider that we are talking about something that exists pretty much solely in the PC VR realm, which of the various different VR platforms is the smallest in terms of potential money and profit and user base.
I love modding. I think modding is so integral to VR. If you're a VR gamer, if you're interested in VR from the gaming aspect, less so than necessarily the tech and the application, I think the modders are so important right now because they're keeping us afloat, keeping us entertained during these long periods of kind of content drought almost. But there is always in the back of my mind kind of a slight worry about all of the modding scene because of what we saw a little bit with 2K, GTA, Red Dead. If
they did it, they got away with it. They did it, yeah.
And they were going to get away with it. And if there's any company out there that thinks that anyone's doing something that will stop them from being able to monetize something that they might not even be working on right now, but they might work on in the future, they will swoop in and they will kill it. It's their brand at the end of the day. And I think that was the interesting thing with Luke Ross's mods, is that there was this extra layer because his mods were locked behind a paywall. They're on Patreon, so people are paying to get access to them. But I think even without that, I think Take-Two still would have taken them down, because I think I mentioned it when I covered it. But if they're not making GTA VR now or Red Dead VR now, even if they want to make it in the future, already that kind of SEO, that Google search, that discoverability is muddied by all of this content around
and
Luke's
not
mods.
only that, do you really want your version to immediately have something to be compared against? If everyone had already played GTA VR, the mod, for 5 years, they now have expectations of what Rockstar will deliver with their official one, and that's probably not a conversation that they want to have if they can avoid it.
I was just going to say, imagine if Resident Evil 8 is better as a mod than it is as a game on PSVR 2. I mean, how's that going to, when you sit down to play it and suddenly you're like, hold on a minute, I don't know how that would be possible, obviously, but
there was one.
Well, we've seen it. We saw it with Doom 3. Doom 3 on PSVR is not as good as even the Dr. Beef Quest.
Yeah,
straight up.
Yeah, that is very true. It is very true. Very true.
Freaking genius too, by the way. That guy does it on a freaking Quest 2 platform, on a mobile platform. He's modding. That guy, he does not get the credit he deserves. Should be talking more about Dr.
Doom 3 Quest with B haptics fucking blew my mind.
It's
When I
so
remember
good.
walking through like
So good.
obviously I'm quite used to like being shot and burnt and all that stuff, but I went through a door and I think a spark, and I felt the spark.
Sparks hit you on the head
and
and
I
stuff,
thought,
and get you in the
fuck
back.
me,
Yeah.
man, that is crazy immersive.
And Castle Wolfenstein's fantastic too. Have you guys done that? It's so good.
Yep. Yep.
If
And
I was to-
Quake.
Yeah, if I was to really
Quake.
sit down and do like my top 10 Quest 2 games, I think probably 3 of them would be Dr. Beef, and it would probably be Doom, Half-Life, and Return to Castle Wolfenstein, I think. But Quake
How
is
was
also
Meta
really
not
fucking
hired
good.
him?
Who maybe he doesn't want to be hired. you know,
doesn't.
maybe there's that
Maybe,
kind of
yeah.
thing about just being your own kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was only going to mention GT said about like kind of the PC port maybe being better than the official thing when the official thing comes along. One thing that surprised me about Village VR, the coverage going back to the PSVR 2 hands-on people have already had, and this obviously could change. I think Mike actually said in his coverage that obviously it could change, but was that you couldn't stabilize the gun with your second hand, your free hand. So when you've got a pistol, that second hand can't also grip the pistol to stabilize it. So that hand's
That's what I'm
free. I
saying.
thought that was a little strange.
Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, especially 7, considering it didn't actually come to PC VR in the end. That Resident Evil 7 VR is officially only on PSVR, isn't it?
PSVR, yeah.
That is fantastic. Like that
the PC version, in my opinion, is better. If you
Yeah,
get
it
the
is.
performance right, it's better.
Dude, I couldn't believe
is.
it. I couldn't believe it. Like, if someone would have said that to me, because it holds such a special place in my heart, like PSVR, Resident Evil 7, you know, I've got memories of my friends coming around, all this fun we had. Like, when I went into PC, I was like, damn, dude, this is how, like, it should have been, you know?
Yeah, this is my favorite game, and I revisited it like 2 weeks ago with the update. You know, they just updated it, and there was this big scare that the mod wasn't going to work anymore. But if you use the nightly build, all that stuff works, and it's beautiful. It's clarity from edge to edge. It's way more detail with regards to the textures than the PSVR version, and you get your hands.
Yeah.
And it's not just generic use of your hands either. I mean, you block with your hands, you heal yourself with your hands. I mean, it's not one-to-one like a native VR experience, but it's really close, and it's the best way to play the best game.
Nice. Well, so going back to actual VR games, what is you know, the ones you have to buy normally, what is on everyone's list? And I'm wondering if anything is the same for anyone across the board. I just want to know, if there's anything in particular that stands out at the moment for you personally?
I am excited about Ultimex. I have really enjoyed all of the time that I've had in Ultimex. I played the beta that a bunch of people got invited to do and was not a fan, was so surprised to see how much of the community feedback they actually applied to the game by the time it was released. And now I think they have a legit hit on their hands. It's free to play. It's super fun. They've got the battle pass system in there. We just did a recording, Skiva and I did, for Backseat VR Developer with one of the game producers, Daniel Frostberg from Resolution Games. And I think I might have talked them into of adding an ability to earn the Ultimex points, like the coins, through the battle pass system. So like if you buy into it, you should be able to unlock enough to buy another one. And
Oh, you mean like Fortnite? Like Fortnite.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can you please do this? And he was like, I'm writing it down right now. So if they put that in there, then as far as I'm concerned, that's a no-brainer. You go in there, you drop the $10, you play Ultimex with your friends, you have a riot. That's the one I'm excited about right now.
Dude, I've been saying the same thing. I think I messaged GT just before, it was a couple of weeks back, and said, look, we need to get into this Ultimex thing because this is crazy fun. And almost immediately I didn't play any of the kind of early beta stuff that it sounds like you got to try out, but like it feels like they're the first, maybe not exclusively the first, they're one of the first VR developers who have created a multiplayer only VR game, but one that I'm not particularly worried about. Because I always get a bit worried when there's a VR, like a multiplayer only VR game. I'm like, how long is it going to last? How's it going to retain its player base? What's the price point going to be? What's the content offering for the price point? Is there enough reason to come back to it? With this being free on Pico, Quest, and Steam, cross-play across all of it, there's a free battle pass and a premium battle. There's reason to return. It's such a no-brainer. I don't know why you wouldn't already have it installed on if you're a VR fan, you should probably have it installed on some.
Yeah, and playing a game or two
absolutely.
throughout the day. You know, you can just hit up any friend of yours that has a headset and be like, "Hey, do you want to jam on some Ultimax right now? Sure, let's go." Bam, you're in there.
I like it better than knock. I don't know about you guys. I didn't.
It's way better.
Particularly care.
Yeah,
for
I
knock.
like it more than
I
knock,
love
yeah.
Ultimax, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I think I said this to someone the other day, but I think Population 1 kind of needs to take some notes and kind of go the same way. I would like to see Population 1 go free to play
Yes, me too.
with a more Fortnite-esque battle. But I know they've already got the system, but kind of really lean into that as their monetization. Because right now, if you try and play a game of Pop 1, you're playing the same people that are kind of super skilled up. They're absolutely slapping you within seconds. It's not fun anymore. And you need to get more players back in. But right now, I think asking a new player, I forget how much Pop 1 is to pick up. Is it 20 odd? I don't know.
$30, bro.
30 bucks.
bucks.
Yeah,
There you go. So like,
30.
you're asking a new person to put $30 in. If it was me, I'd research what the player base was like beforehand. I'd find out there was only about 20 people playing and they're all god tier, and I just wouldn't invest the money. But if it was free, obviously people are going to be like, "Oh, it's free. I'll jump it." They need to expand that player base because that's the thing that
100%.
worries me, man. I think that game will die if they don't.
100%. I
Well,
think
what about what
anything
happened to
should.
Echo? Like Echo, right? When free to play. And I mean, I guess maybe it was always free to play. I can't remember, but it let in so much obnoxiousness that no one wants to play it anymore. Do you think that would happen, or do you think it would kick new life into a game that is maybe dying because of the reasons you said? Because if you buy in at a high price point, and you go in there and you get slapped around, it's just no fun, right? So, you know, double-edged sword. But
you need kind of like a pool of like 6-year-olds to pick off, like just like fodder to make it fun for somebody like
that's
me,
what
you know?
happens.
Like, that's what it is, you know. But like, I think any game that's free to play, there's going to be a level of obnoxiousness. People are going to come through.
Yeah.
You know, I play a bit of Fortnite, and you know, I'm always getting people doing like weird chicken dances on me when I die. Like, it's going to happen. But I think it kind of needs to happen.
It's interesting because Ultimax, for example, free to play. This is a game that if you are not in a party with someone, you're not hearing anybody talk. And I think that is going to be a big contributor to that game's success for the reason that you're talking about right now, Skiva. Because if you think about anything that's free to play on the Quest, you go in there, it is filled with screaming kids. All of them. All of them. Everything that's free to play will have screaming kids at the forefront of the experience. As soon as you get into a point where you can hear someone talking, that's what you'll hear. So if a game can do something like what Ultimax is doing, where they create a competitive experience that you don't need to be hearing the banter of all of the free-to-play community, then you can just play it. And you won't know that you just got stomped by a 7-year-old. Maybe it'll actually make your life better in a lot of ways.
I just want to ask the chat's opinion on Ultimax, and I'll tell you why. Because there's only 107 ratings and 59 reviews on the Oculus Store. Now, it's made by Resolution Games, which I think they're one of the great developer teams we've got. It's free. It's multi-platform. I kind of expected a bit more of a bang.
Has it
there wasn't
any kind of push on the
I don't.
Quest
That's
2
what I mean.
store?
I don't know. I don't. That's what I'm like.
I often find like that the strangest games will get the push on the MetaQuest store. Like I will take it to my grave. I'll always remember logging in and seeing Tarzan had the full front page splash, and I was like, I had a little heart attack. But like something like Ultimax, I don't think I've seen have that kind of, you know when you log in and it's the top splash and it's out now, free, grab it. I don't think they've shouted about it on there. I'd be interested to know if a lot of people knew that it was out, kind of thing. Like, I don't know what the marketing push has been.
That's the thing, right? There hasn't been a whole lot of coverage of it, and the coverage that was there took place before the game was even out. So like when people were seeing this through the press cycle, all they could do is go wishlist it. They couldn't go download it. And I feel like it would really help them to get that first, DLC pack out there as quickly as possible so they can get another press run in and people will actually hopefully go download it this time, because
like
it is a
big
great
community
game.
event, kind of like in Death Unchained. Like they do these like big epic community events where they like incentivize everybody to get in there. I mean, and In Death Unchained got a ton of interaction and engagement from the community for a game that you have to buy to participate in. So
Super great customer.
Ultimex should be like planning some huge epic event that like for this week every game you play gets you X amount of points, and these points get you exclusive, you know, limited time only skins that if you don't play this first week while we're getting up and running, then you won't get access to them. Like, let's go, call to action, Ultimex time, bitches, get in here, you know, like
I just think the whole
agree.
thing's interesting. How people feel it's very meh, but I had such a great time playing
Such
it.
a good time with
I was like,
It's fun.
and I think when me and Ben finished, we were like, this game's gonna be fire. Like everyone's gonna love it. Everyone's gonna have a great time in it. I walked away having no doubt. Actually, I thought this game's so good. And then yeah, you see some comments, and I don't know. It's just interesting to
Will
me.
someone hit me up for a game today of Ultimex, please? I really want to play it. Like, now they're sitting here talking about it. Like, I want to get in there. Somebody hit me up after the show.
Dude, I'm
wanna
up
play
for playing
Ultimex.
Ultimex for a little while afterwards.
Let's get it. I want to play.
What
I'm
was
up.
the last big Quest 2 launch before this that got like a ton of reviews and stuff? You
Into the
guys-
Radius, I think, has done really well on the Quest.
Yeah.
Now, I need to ping over. I'm in ping there now, but I would be very surprised if that didn't have a ton of reviews. I mean, it's deserving. Like the game is,
Yeah.
There you go. I think it's been out for what, two and a bit weeks. 1,039 ratings, is sitting a sliver off of 5 stars. Not that means much on the Quest 2 store.
No, it doesn't. No.
But yeah, like that's great to see. Again, and that's so strange in comparison to Ultimex. It's not particularly strange, but Into the Radius already had like this super dedicated army of fans on PSVR, and I'm sure a lot of them have kind of come over to support on the Quest 2.
I think it speaks a lot to that expectation that people have as new VR gamers that we have gotten so far away from. And it's this idea that you can buy a game and like sink your damn teeth into it. Like hours and hours of exploring a huge, epic, super scary world. You know, like that game has so much meat on the bones. It's not even funny. And if you bought only one single player game for your Quest 2, you might want to make it Into the Radius so you can get in there and like clean your guns and explore the worlds and manage your inventory, and just like there's so much going on. So I think people really want more of these like robust like games. Like not like a tech demo with some cool features, like games, like a real, true, honest to God.
I mean,
I
not,
think,
a
like,
game? Not a cookie cutter fucking cooking game like we get every week on the Quest. Yeah, let's get something better than that. Yeah,
I think for me, Wanderer really stood out as like an amazing VR game.
Again,
Red
it was
Matter
a game.
2.
Like,
Red Matter 2.
2.
Yeah, like we've had them.
If we all sit and talk about the best ones over the last kind of 12 or so months, maybe a bit longer, they'll be the ones that actually felt like games. They were
Adventures,
of a certain
you
length.
remember
They
them.
took you on a journey. You know,
Yeah.
you didn't put it on. And there's so many Quest 2 games that there's a few, and I won't sit and shame any of them, but like there's a few games where I've sat down, chucked the headset on to record a video, and I've completed the game in an hour. And I've been like, well, I'm not going to put that on the chat. That's the whole game. Like, and I've just walked away from it. And there's so many of them. That is currently the majority. And then games like Into the Radius and Saints and Sinners and Red Matter and Wanderer and Resi 4, they are still the minority. We're not getting enough of those kind of fully fleshed out, longer experiences. A while back, I compared it to kind of the Wii shovelware era, where you kind of had all these games that were just like cashing in on the kind of the nicheness of the Wii, and they're just games out every week, but there was no substance in them. And it feels like the Quest has a lot of that in it at the moment. Kind of these games coming through, and something like Twilight Zone. Like I feel like if that game had, it's another year in development to actually flesh it out and really think about what they were creating, could have been really, really cool.
There were some great ideas.
There's some good ideas there.
Yeah.
But what they delivered was this thing that was just so vapid, I thought anyway. Like that first level was kind of cool, but really if you stripped it back, it was Alien Isolation without any of the kind of the meat of Alien Isolation.
I'm thinking of like Into the Radius in comparison to something like Moss Book 2, right? Which is like highly awaited, highly loved and respected by anybody who plays the Moss series. Like, but you can sit down and play Moss Book 2 in 4 or 5 hours, and that's it. Boom, done. VR game. That is a VR game. You know, like it is not like Into the Radius where it's like that's your new life. Like that's your new world. You know, that's what you do now is play Into the Radius. Like you can't just turn your life into Moss. Like you're gonna beat that game and that's it. You're gonna move on. But something like Into the Radius gives people that opportunity, and I think that's why it's seeing so much success right now.
Do you know the game I think that's killing it at the moment is Contractors?
Yeah, dude. With one, it's because they're using Star Wars and whatever this other one is. What was it? Call of Duty or
whatever it is, Halo. Whatever it
Halo.
is.
I think it was Anton on Twitter did a thread about how interesting it was that kind of the most popular VR games right now weren't necessarily popular because of the core content that they shipped with, but because of the modded content that was kind of being put into the game from other more popular IPs that you cannot currently get in VR. So, you know, Contractors exploding as soon as that Halo pack dropped, and it's stunning.
It's really good.
Yeah.
As a
It's
Halo
really,
fan,
really good.
It is absolutely. The only thing that can make it better, in my opinion, is if you could jump in vehicles and like if I could drive a Ghost around. But other than that, it is, you know, the sounds, the full body rigs, the maps, the bloody voiceover, dude. Like it's Halo.
It's spot on. It's spot on. Running across Blood Gulch was like, I like time traveled when all of a sudden I'm running across Blood Gulch and I was like, what? I'm in the future now. Wow.
If someone mods GoldenEye into there properly, oh my god, I'd love to be.
It's coming.
It's already close. It's already close. You can go into a bunch of
GoldenEye levels.
maps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the odd job skin that I can run around.
I want the odd job skin. I want the golden gun.
I want the flat faces like it was in Golden. I remember
Dude, Oddjob is banned, by the way, so it's kind of pointless to have him. You know?
What do you mean? Why is he banned? Because he's
Just-
like
it
best
was-
Yeah, it's a
character.
smaller target. Yeah,
it was Oddjob, and then there was a helicopter pilot character as well who was equally as small as Oddjob, and everyone would pick those two characters
they're
because they
banned
were
at
so
my crib.
small.
It was almost like
Banned
the auto aim wasn't quick enough. Did you remember? Like
You
you
couldn't
go
get
used
him.
to, yeah, it used to tilt. But GoldenEye's coming back out, which I'm
I
really.
know.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
why
On
I'm-
Switch Online, I'm wondering if it'll stand the test of time because personally, I feel like it doesn't on the Nintendo 64. But maybe with updated controls running on a Switch, you know, maybe the online multiplayer would be good. I have a feeling we're better off playing something like Halo than going back to GoldenEye.
Nice. Yeah,
I'm
man.
surprised that Contractors hasn't done better from the get-go. I mean, it's been a pretty good game. Everyone always says, "Where's the Call of Duty in VR?" It's kind of Contractors, right?
It's
I mean,
already
a
there, man.
Pretty
Yeah.
solid game.
Yeah.
So it's
I
weird
think
that
the
it's
reason
just
was
getting
it-
recognition.
Had a lot of competition. I mean, it's got a lot.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly this has really pushed it above everything else. But what was it? Onward. I mean, Pavlov. You can't forget Pavlov. Pavlov is incredible for mods, and it was
It's
modded
really
well
good.
before anything else. What
I
else
think
is there?
the difference for me with Contractors, especially on the Quest, is how simple and accessible it is to apply those mods.
Oh yeah.
You don't need to have any kind of understanding of how to mod a game. You go in, you go, okay, I want to play Halo. You either join someone's Halo map and it will just download it for you, or you just go to the mods and you click it and it's done.
That is the way to do it.
So painless.
Yeah.
So painless. And that's how, if possible, that's how it should be for games that support mods, ideally on the Quest. Like if Blade and Sorcery Nomad had some kind of inbuilt mod launcher where you could just go through it, it would be stunning. It
yeah.
would change things completely. Because I know so many people won't want to muck around with going to Nexus mods to getting it on their PC and transferring it over and putting it into the right folder. For some people, it's
Yeah.
just too much. It's too finicky. And they're missing out on some really cool stuff. So making it easier makes sense.
That's kind of one of the things that Bone Lab is promising that makes it so exciting is that it promises to have a whole built-in modding portion of the game, which is a significant portion of the game. But again, this is a game that's coming to Quest, you know, hypothetically coming to PSVR 2. It's going to bring modding to places where modding hasn't necessarily been a thing before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm particularly looking forward to Bone Lab now. People have kind of confirmed to me that there is story in there. It's not just sports mode, which
Right.
I don't really have time to go into a game to make my own game to then have fun in it. Like, that's just not me at all, you know? Like, I'll definitely play other people's creations all day long. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. But yeah, I just didn't, I don't really personally find much satisfaction into making like my own bowling game out of a shopping trolley and stuff. You know,
to not like drag us down some other path that's going to last for another hour, but that's a common thread that I see across so many VR games that I love. There's so many VR games that I play, and I love the systems they've built. I love the interactions. I love how it feels to play them. Stuff like Hellsplit Arena, stuff like Hard Bullets, stuff like Blade and Sorcery. Like there's stunning games, but they lack the substance and the depth of an actual game. So I'll jump into something like Hellsplit and I'll be like, this feels so good to play, but I want a story. I want to like progress through like a castle. I want to go through rooms. I want to explore. I want to fight a boss at the end and progress to another stage. You know, they feel like they're building great foundations, but not necessarily fully fleshed out games. And I think that's the
like
other strange
tech
thing.
demos, like tech demos.
Exactly that. So many VR games still feel like tech demos. Like, look what you can do. Look how cool VR is. Look how cool it is to swing a sword around. But there isn't anything really beyond that that can keep me coming back for more time and time again.
Yeah, Hellsplit Arena was fucking amazing back in the day.
Love that game.
Absolutely amazing. If anyone's got any questions in the chat, now's a really good time because we're about to wrap up the show. Other than that, thank you ever so much. And someone said, this show is very random, but I love it. And it kind of is a bit random, to be honest. I mean, we had like 3 bullet points that we was going to talk about. I'm always waiting for Brad to say something. Always. I'm always looking at him like, what's he doing now? Oh, he's playing with his thermal imaging camera again. But yeah, thank you ever so much for joining us on this show. I know this is very different, and I see people on Twitter saying, how can you mod that many people? How can you have that many people on the show? But it seems to be working, I think, and everyone here has got really, really great opinions. And it's just been awesome. It's just awesome.
I've been enjoying it. You know, this is quite a departure from the types of conversations that we typically will end up having on our show, Between Realities, Fridays, every day on every Friday on YouTube. Like and subscribe. You know, but Steve and I, we do Between Realities, and you know, we don't always get to like really dive into like the news and like, you know, like this modding conversation, like having everyone contribute and like being able to just like really peel away a lot of layers on kind of like the hot topics of the day. You know, to be honest, we don't really often get to do that. We always have a guest, and our guest kind of focuses our conversations a lot. So I personally am really enjoying it, and I'm really happy to have the opportunity to come on and sit with all of you fine gentlemen and discuss what's newest in the world of VR.
Yeah, and I would like to say, we didn't say it last week, but GT, thank you for doing this, man. I mean, you this was really all your idea. I don't think any of us had an idea to do something this big, and you put it together, and you wrangle all of us into, which is, you know, 7 people with busy schedules. Not easy to do, but
it's a selfish thing of mine, because I just like I don't get to do this. I don't get to talk to people, and I thought the amount of times I've spoke to people, even on the phone, and I'm like, this would make a great podcast. This conversation would be awesome, and that's kind of the whole bones of this, is that each and every one of you I would talk to about VR. You know, I mean, probably Brad the least, because I think he's like so much more intelligent than I am. He'd tell me stuff and I'll be like, I have to take your word for it. But
he's intimidating.
Do you find him intimidating?
Well, he's Brad.
He's beautiful, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is. He's stunning. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that never-ending story thing I did of him on that magic carpet?
That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
That is still one of my favorite things ever, honestly.
I went onto his channel one day and it was like the bloody... What did you have it doing? It was like the live stream.
It was the trailer for my monthly live stream.
That must have been copyrighted though, like so hard.
Oh, it was. I don't care. It was worth it.
Oh, that's so funny, dude. But yeah, like, thank you to Alex Esquiva from Between Realities. Go like, subscribe, as he said. Selfless plug is what it's all about. Thank you to Wes from Virtual Strangers. Nice.
Thank you for having me. Always, so much fun.
I love it, man. I feel very blessed to have you here. Thank you, Eric from QTC Gaming. How many followers have you got on Facebook?
We have 179,000.
Call me when you get 200.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I don't care you even think you could be here.
You think you're better than me? Sorry, I know that's not my.
You don't think you're better? I could have 100.
That's such a masher line.
It
You
is.
think you're better than me?
That's not my thing. Thank you ever so much to you, Sadly It's Bradley. Cheers, man. Thank you for joining us. Thank
VR is a gimmick.
you. It's it, man. It's dead. It's already dead.
Yours dead.
Always
Yeah.
dead.
it
Never,
don't-
never lie.
It died while using the podcast. And thank you to Ben from Beardo Benjo.
Thank you very much, man. Cheers for putting it all together. Legend as always.
Thank you, guys. Look after yourselves in the chat.